These are the best fall native perennials for the Mountain West and Northern Plains. Hey guys, Michelle here from the Garden Spot, and now that it's fall, it's literally snowing behind me, I want to show you the 7 best native perennials for the Mountain West and Northern Plains that have done well in my garden. So what do I mean by they do well? So for a plant to do well, I mean they receive almost no supplemental water, require almost no maintenance, and just look great. Plant these up together and you're gonna have an awesome show next fall. When talking native plants, it's super important to be specific about growing areas. So I grow in the foothills between prairie grasslands and the Black Hills, which are basically like growing in the Rockies, but like with a bit more water. So what I mean is that what's native for me is probably gonna work really well for you if you live in the Rockies or the Northern Plains, then this video is for you. Number 1, Ratibida or prairie coneflower. Light requirement, full sun, soil, dry to moist. This is just a drought tolerant plant that's going to reseed itself around the garden. It's fast growing, easy to grow from seed, doesn't bloom the first year from seed though, so that's something to keep in mind if that's important to you. This awesome flower is common on the Great Plains, and it's just like an airy, beautiful wildflower. I think it pairs best with blue and red colored plants. So like a Picea pungens or the red seed heads of penstemon can really add like some lovely, it's just a lovely pairing. These guys are trouble-free, easygoing. It's usually the last bloom in my garden to die back for winter, making it just so nice to have in our short growing season. I'd pair it with a lower growing perennial that'll kind of hide its legs. So like a lamb's ear or something for it to bloom against, like a fence or a wall of evergreens, just something to show off like its airy nature. Number 2, Antennaria neglecta. I love this ground cover. It's native across North America, zones 3 to 8, height only 2 inches tall, blooms sometime in June, full sun to part shade, water dry to medium. Like this plant does it all. Oh my God, it's such a great plant. It's the single best ground cover for the Mountain West and the Plains, period. It needs 0 supplemental water, grows in full sun, but the part shade conditions underneath plants. So you can use it under trees. It's got this lovely silver blue foliage. It's polite, it won't crowd out others, yet somehow it also spreads quickly. Like, I do not understand why this plant is not more popular yet. Like, it should be everywhere, but I know it's gonna be someday. It's just too good. I don't know if you can hear the junco over there. There's 3 different species that grow here in the hills, and they're all outstanding. I just chose neglecta because it's got a wide natural range, but they're all good. Pick one, put it in the ground, you're gonna love it. These plants are host to the painted lady butterfly, and I've also seen lightning bugs on them too. The only maintenance is just to cut back the dried flower heads. If you don't like them, I cut them back, but you totally don't need to. Buy a few plugs from a nursery and then you can easily propagate them yourself. So new roots are super easy to propagate from cuttings. It's just a hassle-free, easygoing plant. As far as pairings go, I would pair it with just about anything. That's seriously the magic of this plant. All right, number 3 is gallardia blanket flower, zone 3 to 10. Native to most of North America, full sun. It's just a beautiful, spreading, easygoing native perennial. It's got like just that classic wildflower look, you know what I mean? When I first got this plant, I thought it'd be a little too much for my garden because I have a small space and I dig like a more subdued palette. But when these are paired with like a grass or a burgundy shrub, it just looks so good. I just really like it against any other color that's a little bit muted, and then it just really makes that color pop. Try it with maybe a 9-bark or like a blonde ambition blue gamma grass. That's what I have it with. Number 4, picea glauca or weeping white spruce. What kind of northern gardener would I be without a conifer on my list? Cold climate growers who love conifers can totally get seduced by all of those fancy non-native species, you know, like a Pinus parviflora or a cryptomeria. And don't get me wrong, I like all the conifers. There isn't a bad conifer. And you know, I get it. I try with limited success to grow them too. But at the end of the day, honestly, like just a solid picea glauca is just so gorgeous in its own right. It's completely drought tolerant, extremely cold hardy, and is not gonna get winter burn. Like no matter what, this conifer is the only one in my garden that does not get winter burn, period. It's awesome. So extremely hardy. It's hardy at zones 2 to 6, height 12 to 40 feet tall. So I didn't think it would get 40 feet tall in my area until I saw one at a garden center that was 30 feet tall. And that being said, it only grows about 6 inches a year, so it's definitely a slow grower. Spread is 5 to 8 feet. So that's where the magic is. Like if you want beautiful, narrow, evergreen height in the garden, this is the tree for you. Number 5 is panicum. Common name is switchgrass. Hardy zone 5 to 9, height about like 7 feet tall, blooms in fall, full sun, part shade, water like dry to moist. It's just a versatile little grass. You know, you get a bunch of water, no problem. Bone dry, also no problem. Full sun to light shade, yup. Mine gets 0 supplemental water and it doesn't mind. Apparently the seed heads are good forage for birds. I've never seen any birds on mine, but like maybe you'll get some finches. I hope you do. So pair it with a ground cover like lamb's ear or Antennaria, or mass it together so the seed heads can kind of make an airy cloud. And whatever you do, don't cut this grass back because it looks best in winter. Number 6, physocarpus, 9 bark. This is technically a native R, but not many gardeners know that 9 bark is actually native to a lot of the US. So we might think of it as kind of an overgrown shrub, but that's just not true anymore. It's just seen a lot of popularity, and plant breeders have done a ton with it. And there's just all kinds of cultivars now with all different heights and habits. This plant generally does best in full sun in the northern part of its growing range, but I found it'll take a ton of shade and still retain that really deep burgundy red color that I personally just love in a garden. Now, if part of the reason you want to plant native plants is to increase biodiversity, consider a yellow-leafed cultivar or the straight species, because in one study, researchers found that when you turn a plant leaf from green to red or purple, it makes it less palatable to insects. So you could repel the very critters that you're trying to attract. Keep that in mind. Number 7 and last on my list, rudbeckia hirta, zones 3 to 7, height 2 feet in my garden, spread about the same, blooms sometime in June to September. So this is a biennial or short-lived perennial. It's pretty long-lived in my garden, but it's winter hardy, 3 to 7. It blooms in the first year from seed planted. So if you plant it out in early spring, you're probably going to get blooms that year, which is very, very cool in a perennial. It self-seeds itself pretty freely around the garden, so know that. No pest problems, easygoing, reliable little self-seeder. I think the ones underplanted against my aspen are the best. It's like that bright yellow and the stark white bark. From a design perspective, it really, really works. All right, that was 5 perennials that are best in fall, plus a shrub and a conifer. I hope you found a few new native perennials to try in your own garden. I chose plants that I grow together and personally I think look really good. So if you are building a new garden bed, if you just add a few drought-tolerant spring and summer plants to this list, you've got a totally low-maintenance perennial garden. That's it for me at the Garden Spot. I hope you find some time in your garden this week.